Hello, everybody. I'm Claudio Castro. I'm the mayor of Renca, and I am very grateful and honored to be able to make this question. So, Renca is one of 32 different boroughs that conform the city of Santiago. We have 160,000 inhabitants, and Renca is considered a lower class neighborhood in the northwest area of the city. So our poverty rates are consistently higher than the average of Santiago. Our neighbors know a lot about how unfair life can be. Probably most of them would even say that they feel free to live their lives their own way, at least to some extent, but they know that they don't live equal lives than other people in terms of rights or in terms of have. Sorry for that introduction, but my question has to be with this individual aim to change, but this lack of collective awareness. So how privatized can our culture be? Is it possible to think in the working class as a collective energy able to push limits further for a better collective life? Can we think some collective framework to fight for deeper equality?
And then the last question about a poor neighborhood in Santiago. I wasn't quite sure I understood the thrust of the question, but part of it concerned the importance of community. And I did want to comment on that. So in general, the poorer people are, the less they're able to make use of the market to get access to essential goods, and the more they rely on personal relationships in communal webs. Well, if you don't have money, right, you can't like hire a babysitter, right? You're going to call on extended family members, or perhaps neighbors, friends. This is just inherent. And so as a result, one of the consequences of this is that poor people's lives are much more susceptible to disruption through policies that disorder their ability to form those communal relationships. So in particular, if they have unstable housing and they get dispersed, that's a much greater disaster than for members of the professional managerial class who could pretty much make their way in any urban center practically in the world because they have the material resources to buy whatever they need. So we see here radically unequal levels of mobility, geographic mobility, and policies could either cater to people who are highly mobile, or we could think about policies that could help people sustain community. That is, these tighter networks of non-market relationships through which people gain access to important goods. So I do think, bringing back to the general theme of relational egalitarianism, what this means is that public policy with respect to less advantaged people has to be especially attentive to the importance of non-market relationships that are often in these communal networks. And policy needs to find ways to enable people to sustain those relationships where they're living. Now, it's also really great to give them resources so that maybe they're not so dependent. But we also have to recognize that people's identities are very closely wrapped up with community too. So it's not a neutral decision to say, here's some cash to make up for it. Right. And you know, what's the right balance? It could only be struck by including the people themselves into the conversation to see what matters to them.